I can't believe I am talking about this. This is something I shouldn't even have to talk about or even have to say anything. But when Bungie clearly says something about a weapon that's been over tuned, that they are nerfing because a new activity is dropping the next day, they fucking mean it. Lord of Wolves, for the last, I think, 3 months, has been overpowered because of the 30% buff it pretty much got at the beginning of Heresy. From Act 1 to Act 3, it was overpowered. Bungie allowed us to have fun. I literally had to block 2 toxic players off my channel for saying I'm wrong when Bungie literally sits there and tells you, YouTubers sits there and tells you, Sneaky Beaver sits there and tells you, it's going to be dead tomorrow. Tomorrow is Rite of the Nine, the new activity known as Dungeon Pantheon, basically. It's basically going to have 3 to 4 contest modes of dungeons, and they are nerfing Lord of Wolves by 30%. So if you calculate this the correct way, you shouldn't have to be a math genius to know this. But if you buff a weapon by 30%, and then 3 months later, you're going to be nerfing it. Okay, so before I even say that, imagine if Lord of Wolves was a useless shotgun after the previous nerfs they had long ago, which is how the Lord of Wolves is before the buff. So imagine how shitty that weapon is back then. It still had the same nerf, same damage before post buff. So let me get this straight. A common person would know if Bungie buffs a weapon that is 30% and you take away that 30% by nerfing it, what does that nerf give you? 0% damage increase. It's going to go back to the way it was, where it's absolute trash weapon. It's not going to be good. It's not going to do good damage. It's going to be doing trash. And it's not the precision that's getting nerfed, because we all know the precision fucking is garbage. The hip fire, the what that causes the mass amounts of deleting bosses, is getting nerfed. The hip fire, not aiming down your sights, the hip fire, that's getting a massive nerf, starting tomorrow. So, I'm gonna go to PvP Pride match so I can get Infinite Special. And I'm going to show you the difference between the aiming and hip firing. The speed is what allows you to get maximum of damage you were getting earlier. Because the precision is trash. The precision damage is trash. Bungie only buffed the hip fire damage. They didn't buff the entire weapon. They only buffed the hip fire. That's why it became the meta. So I'm going to go to a private match, and I'm going to show you the difference between aiming and hip firing. Because clearly, toxic players don't have an idea of what a nerf is. They need to go back to kindergarten, because clearly they have no idea what it means. Control. When you're nerfing something, you're decreasing the amount of damage the weapon does. You're taking away the previous buff to where it's going back to the way it was. Because they only gained 30% buff. And if Bungie takes away that 30% buff, that is a 0 damage buff. It goes back to the way it was. where it was an absolute trash hip fire damage weapon. What you guys don't understand, that it would never, ever, from tomorrow and forward, it would never do good damage again. That's what they don't understand. So, I'm going to show you the difference between that shit.
Capture and defend target.
So if you inspect the weapon, it says, when firing this weapon from hip, this weapon shoots at full auto, which all weapons already do now, and damage and rate of fire is increased, but accuracy and range are decreased. So I'm going to show you what it looks like when you're shooting it while aiming. Now, hip fire. You can see the difference between the speeds. Bungie is nerfing this. They're not nerfing this. Super slow, low damage, and it would not be effective against raid bosses or dungeons, especially in contest mode. This would be. This is what they're nerfing. The release of wolves. As you guys can see now, the release of wolves is not showing up when you're aiming down. It will show up when you're hip firing, when you're not aiming down at all. And let me tell you something. The precision does not stack scorch. You get the scorch damage by this and ignition. Because doing this is not going to get enough scorch to cause ignition. And that's where you see that 100,000 magic number doing damage. What Bungie is doing is nerfing the entire scorch and damage of hipfire. That damage buff again is gone tomorrow. Today is Monday the 5th. Tomorrow is Tuesday, May 6th, where Rite of the Nine will be released. This weapon is not going to be good for the dungeons. Lucky Top P has told everyone this. Sneaky Beaver. They all told you this. There is no reason to come to a lower YouTuber and play fucking, let me go see and how fast I can piss off this guy and tell him that he's wrong. That it's going to be meta of this and this and this. When we know how much it is. This weapon was trash before it got a buff. And it only received a 30% buff. It's getting that buff taken away tomorrow. So no, Lord of Wolves will not be the meta. Lord of Wolves will not do damage. It's going to go back to the way it was when it was trash. Post buff damage. It's going to be trash again. What is going to be the meta? Queensbreaker. Prospector, if you have Tragic Cannon. Merciless. Of course, Div, because it's a debuff. Tragic Cannon's a debuff as well. Hell, you can technically use Choir of One. It would do way more damage. You could use Exderis. It would do way more damage than fucking Lord of Wolves. You could use the Lament. You could use Eyes of Tomorrow with the Hazardous chest piece. You can use Warcliffe Coil with the hazardous chest piece. You can use Darcy. Darcy is pretty much catching up with fucking linears. It's the second most strongest sniper in the game right now. Anarchy is trash, because that only gains your super. It's not going to do that much damage. It's a damage overtime weapon. Leviathan's Breath is also a good one. Colony got a massive buff. That's a good one.
5 minutes remain. A strong start. Fight on.
Swords would be a decent. Linears would be good. Rockets would be good, especially bipod. There's so many better weapons tomorrow that Lord of Wolves will not outshatter. This would be a useless weapon tomorrow. And that's what toxic players need to understand to lead the game instead of going to somebody else's YouTube and talk shit when they have no idea what the fuck they're talking about. It doesn't take a genius to know the percentage of what the nerf is going to be. So, tomorrow, bring your friends if you're doing a dungeon. Div and Queensbreaker would be the meta. And for the knight that is going to be in the Ghost of the Deep is going to be more likely Prospector, Tragic Kitten, or Colony and Tragic Kitten, or even Rockets. But Lord of Wolves is dead tomorrow. That 30% buff it gained will be gone by reset. The Rite of the Nine comes tomorrow, which means Lord of Wolf is bye-bye. It will no longer be effective tomorrow by 12 p.m. Central, 10 a.m. Western, or 1 p.m. Eastern.
3 minutes. You're winning. Stay
So, no. Lord of Wolves would not be effective anymore. The 30% of post buff, the buff before it got a buff, it was a trash weapon before it got a buff. Bungie only did it to allow us to have fun throughout Heresy, because Heresy is a long, technically season / episode. So they buffed Lord of Wolves to allow us to have fun until it was time for Rite of Nine. Now, Rite of Nine is on the horizon, and now it's time for the gun to be gone. It will die tomorrow on reset. Today is your final day to use Lord of Wolves. Servers will be gone by 8 a.m. Western Time, 10 a.m. That's Central Time. I think actually no. I think they're doing reset at 6. It's either 8 or 6 Western. But this is basically your final day to use Lord of Wolves, because by tomorrow it will die and be shitty again. It will go back to the post buff, and it will be trash. And to know what is actually getting nerfed, in case those have not seen it yet, the hipfire is absolute garbage. So it will not get a nerf, but at the same time will be a trash type of way to damage. What is getting damaged is release of wolves. The actual perk of the weapon.
1 minute.
Hipfire damage
Now.
and rate of fire. Rate of fire is not going to get nerfed, but the damage is. That 30% damage that Bungie gave to the Lord of Wolves for us to have fun throughout the wait of Rite of Nine is getting a 30% nerf. This is what they're nerfing. You're still able to do this. It's not recommended because it is trash damage on aiming down sights.
30 seconds remain.
You're only getting that massive damage from hip fire. That's going to go bye-bye tomorrow. So if you have free time today, I advise you to use it as many raids as you can today, because it will not be effective tomorrow during Rite of 9 throughout the 3 dungeons. I can't tell you what to use during the dungeons.
I could not ask.
Merciless is one of the best fusions in the game. Still got a tanky buff, but still balanced. It has pretty good,
All around those zones.
as long as you have some type of kills. There's a lot of ads during the tire dungeons. It's not like a raid where majority of the raids don't have ad clearing during damage. So you would be able to use Impectus more than you would in raids. So that would actually do pretty decent damage. Queensbreaker and Div would be your second to go. That would be the meta for linears. If you feel like being crazy, you can use Prospector and Tractor Cannon. That's what I use, and that's how I get about 5.5 to 6 million damage on Atheon as a Titan. Curse on the Fire and Stars would be still good. Microchasm will be decent against the Wizard and the Ghost of the Deep. It will also be good against the Wyvern in Spire of the Watcher. And it will also be decent in Prophecy as well. Or you can use Queensbreaker and Div. 1 Div, 2 Queensbreaker. Can easily 1 to 2 phase. Depending what you're using, what super you're using, what debuffs you're using, it all depends. Just make sure you have particle reconstruction before using linear. Now, if you're looking for a primary damage, Biodiad, as long as you have good, decent, and you have the Take Inhibition, you would do decent damage. Not really expecting high damage on it because it's not a heavy or a massive damaging special like what Lord of Wolves used to be. You can also use the glaives. Some of them will help you in survival, like the remote shield. You can also use the healing turret. You can also use the lightning. Hell, even Jotun is actually better fucking fusion than most fusions. That's what I usually used against War Priest before anything was actually good damaging. I used that with Bane Switch Rocket. Does pretty good damage. Hey Yellow, how you doing? So it will be trash tomorrow. You can also use Exdarius, that actually has decent damaging. You can also use Choir Wand, even after the nerf, it still has decent damaging. The Hipfire is what got nerfed, but the Decision still does decent amount of damage. And we all know Icebreaker's trash damage. You can use Lament. You can use Eyes of Tomorrow with Hazardous Chest Piece to increase the damage of it. You can also use Warcliffe Coil and Hazardous Chest Piece and also increase the damage on it. Yeah, it's getting nerfed. It's not going to be reliable DPS anymore. You can use Darcy with Div. Actually does massive amounts of damage on Witness, surprisingly. You can use Colony on the Knights. You can use Colony on the first boss of Prophecy, since he's on the ground and he's going to be on that fucking shield in front of him the entire time because Bungie, some reason, made Phalanxes fucking put the shield in front of them. You can use swords, you can use rockets. But that's about it for this video. I'll see you guys next time.